Chambers of the Occult may contain content that might not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back.
Chambers of the Occult.
It's episode 18 now, folks. We're pretty far into it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, almost at 20.
This many.
That's like a lot.
What are we?
I can't really do math right now, but like that's a lot.
Yeah. So we're back with stories. No guess, because Alexis has the bonus story. Oh, that's right. I am Jay.
Yeah.
I'm drifting alone in this void.
Anyway,
I'm Kai.
Okay, and I'm Alexis.
And this is Chambers of the Occult.
But I think
we already said that.
Yippee,
Pew, 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 pew.
Yippee.
We talk.
Zip, zap, zap.
Zip, zap, zap.
Bibbidi bobbidi. Women.
Okay. I think we should get started.
I do.
Because I don't really think there's anything to catch up about.
Not really. I don't know. Stretch out a bit. Grab some popcorn. Grab a drinky drink or a snacky snack.
I got my water.
Yeah, hydrate.
No vodka, just water.
If you have a headache,
just add water.
Tylenol. Or
H2O.
Oh hell no! Are we talking about mermaids now?
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
No, I'm talking about a true crime case. That's what I'm starting us.
Where are you taking us to?
That's the truth.
So, I'm taking you to a very cool, very hot, very dry place.
Is it? Can I guess?
Yeah.
Death Valley?
No, but you're not far off.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's not really that cool. I kind of lied on that part. But anyway,
Liar.
on Tuesday, July 8th, 2003, in Bakersfield, California. Officers from the Bakersfield Police Department would respond to a frantic 911 call by a woman named Kelsey Spann. She's laying on the bed, dead.
We're getting right into it.
Yes, we are. Kelsey was best friends with a woman named Joni Harper. Kelsey was prompted to check in on Joni and her family in their home because she hadn't heard from them since the previous Sunday, 2 days before. And they also hadn't showed up to evening church services that Sunday night, which was very uncharacteristic of the family, but especially of Joni because she was a very devout churchgoer.
Got it.
The officers responded to the call. They reached the home and they saw something they had never seen before. They'd never had to deal with. On that Tuesday, July 8th, 2003, so that woman, Joni Harper, her two boys, Marquez and Marshall, her daughter, Lindsay, and her mother, Ernestine, were found dead inside of their home.
Oh, all of them.
5 people, the whole family. Yeah.
Damn.
The house had been ransacked, left completely a mess, seemingly a robbery that had unfortunately taken a turn for the worse. It was determined that the family was killed sometime after 1 p.m., 2 days prior on July 6th, so that's Sunday. So it was determined that the family, they went to the morning church services that Sunday morning. They interacted with Kelsey, Joni's best friend. They went home. And they all had plans to meet up again that night for the evening church services. And they didn't end up, showing. And that's when Kelsey did get a bit suspicious. So they were determined to have been killed on that Sunday. Thankfully, Joni's husband, Vincent Brothers, was in North Carolina, all the way across the country. He was visiting his mother when all this occurred.
No!
Yeah, the pain he must have felt was unimaginable when he did learn of what had happened. BPD, Bakersfield Police Department detectives, they flew out to North Carolina that same night of the murders, or of the call, July 8th. They flew out to North Carolina to inform him of the murders, what had happened. And according to Jeff Watts, one of the detectives, quote, "When I started to speak with him, he started to scream. It looked like he was going to vomit."
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
yeah,
that's an entire family. Yeah,
your entire family, your wife, your 3 children, your mother-in-law. But why? Why did this happen in the first place? What motive was there? That's, of course, going to be the question. And now there really, at first, just wasn't. It didn't seem to be a reason. Of course, investigators dug into the backgrounds of the victims. Joni, the wife, the mother, she was simply just a basketball official, a referee. She was a great mother. She was a devout churchgoer. Her mother, Ernestine, was actually a known civil rights advocate in the Bakersfield and sort of Kern County community. She worked in a lot of the Bakersfield school systems to help promote that activism. Now the children, they were too young to really be involved in anything. Marquez, the oldest son, he was 4 years old. The daughter.
Oh my God.
That's tragic right there. If he was the oldest at 4.
4, yeah. The daughter, Lindsay, was 2. And the other son, Marshall, he was only 6 weeks old. All of them, Ernestine, and the children had been found all shot to death. It was determined it was with a .22 caliber rifle. But Joni, the wife, she was determined to have been stabbed to death several times. And after investigation, it proved some of these stabs even continued after she had already passed.
So this wasn't like a casual break-in. There was motive behind it.
No, not at all. But was it a break-in at all? When the investigators went into the home to look at the scene, of course it was ransacked, it was disheveled. It was clearly a robbery. Maybe too clearly a robbery, because when they went to look at it, all of the cash, cards, any other valuables were all just left in plain sight. Nothing had actually been taken. So they very quickly realized that this was a staged scene. And the murders were, of course, the intent, especially with a brutal stabbing to one of the 5 victims. That is something of passion. That is something that's calculated, that's intended.
Yeah.
In a way. Now, I mentioned that the husband, Vincent, he was out, on a trip. He was nowhere nearby, but of course he was the husband. They had to, interview him, whatever.
Yeah.
It's always the husband.
Well, I mean, yeah.
That's what the
first person, it's always the husband, right? So I get it. You have to go investigate. But, he had a pretty good alibi. He was on this trip, so he was essentially ruled out immediately. So they did more investigation, though. The detectives, the investigators, they looked into the background of Ernestine, the the mother-in-law of Vincent, and how she was sort of a community activist. And so she definitely, I guess, could have not really been in the greatest terms with lots of the gangs and other like criminal activity in the area. And so that actually turned into, Ernestine being incredibly security conscious. Like, she had a gun that she kept on her. They found out that the home was actually outfitted with a spiked fence. There were burglar bars on the windows and multiple locks on each door. So they were prepared, but that also further just proved that it wasn't a robbery, because how would somebody have even gotten in with all of these measures? Like, how'd the killer even break into the house in the first place? The wounds on them indicate that, and them being in the bed indicated that they were killed when they were asleep. So there really wasn't, much noise. There would have been something that was more obvious, I guess. They, very quickly determined it was not a crime of, I guess, financial gain in a way. So the detectives, they, of course, looked even more into the background. They were stumped for a while, but the investigations didn't stop. They eventually started looking into just the relationship between Vincent and his wife Joni in the first place. And that's when they uncovered some things that would actually get this investigation rolling.
Secret love affair. Wait, really?
Yeah, so
a psychic.
So that was not good. Vincent Brothers, he was widely known as a good man in the Bakersfield community. He was the vice principal of John C. Fremont Elementary School there. He held a master's degree from CSU Bakersfield. His bachelor's was from Norfolk State University. He was a well-educated, good man in the public's eye. Who really was caring for
you could say a pillar of the community.
He kind of was, in a way, yeah. And that really further helped, him not necessarily being a suspect, I guess, in the first place. You mentioned...
I didn't mean to spoil it. I did not know.
Yeah. No. You're good.
Spoiler.
So, Vincent definitely was known to be somewhat of a ladies' man, of a player and a charmer, and that definitely messed with his relationship over those years. Now, he and his wife Joni, they were married, but that wasn't actually the first time they had been married.
Ooh.
Yeah, so they actually originally married in 2000, but they had the marriage annulled in 2001, the next year, because of his cheating, an affair that Vincent was having.
Oh damn.
Yeah, so there was a lot of animosity between them in a way, but they got remarried in January of 2003 when they learned that Joni was pregnant with their third child. And so that would be Marshall, their youngest, their 6-week-old that was murdered as well. But that wasn't really where it ended, I guess. Even before that, he had been married before to other people.
So it wasn't his first marriage.
No, it was not his first. He actually was married 4 times in total. He was incarcerated for a bit of time for spousal abuse.
Checks out.
Yeah, and he actually had a daughter from his girlfriend, or a daughter that he had with his girlfriend while he attended California State University Bakersfield for his master's. So 1988 is when he was convicted of spousal abuse. He had a 6-day sentence in jail, which
that's not a lot. That generally feels like a slap on the wrist.
It literally does, yeah. Which is insane, yeah. His second marriage was in 1992. But in 1993, a year later, his wife sued for divorce because she claimed that he threatened to kill her and was violent.
This wasn't like a one-time thing with the ex-wife?
Nope. Like he had a history of this. In 1996, he sexually harassed a woman who worked at the school where he was the vice principal at. There's actually like the reports and the reports that she claimed that she visited his home, and when she did, he hit her, but was dissuaded by him to file a police report or a complaint against him because he was, quote, a respected community leader.
So he was definitely leveraging his position.
Whatever
his position was. What was it again?
Vice principal of an elementary school. Yeah. So she didn't file a police complaint, but she did. But there was an investigation that happened by the school. Of course,
yeah, of course.
Deny. He was never actually disciplined for it, but they just told him that it was a bad look, pretty much.
I will never get why you will keep someone like this on payroll.
No way. Except for the fact that it was Bakersfield in the 80s.
Fair, okay. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess now we know better.
Yeah. So of course they're like, we've got some stuff, and they start to investigate more. They actually bring him in for more questioning. They start to evaluate his actual trip that he took. His original plan was that he was going to fly to Columbus, Ohio for the long 4th of July weekend that was happening, to go visit his brother. But he went to visit a brother that he had not seen in years, I guess. And so that was already one of the first things that was kind of off. Why now? Why was the timing of it? So they had him in trial. They had him lie on they had him speak on the stand, which was discovered that he, lied many, many, many times.
Got it.
So, yeah. So he flew to Columbus, and that's where he said he was. While he was being, I guess, tried and interviewed, he tried to further his alibi actually by saying that by trying to provide receipts of purchases from stores in the Ohio and North Carolina areas, but later on it was actually found out that he completely lied about that, and it was actually his brother who had made those purchases but had given him receipts. So there was lots of little things that Vincent lied about on the stand while being questioned. And so they started to shift their focus back to maybe this was a family annihilation. Maybe Vincent is the suspect in all of this. They did more research into what happened. They actually put together a believed timeline of what had happened. So he had flown from the Los Angeles airport all the way to Columbus, Ohio. But what they found out is that he rented a rental car while he was there. And they believe that he drove all the way from Ohio across the country to Bakersfield, murdered his family, drove all the way back to Ohio, and he was back in North Carolina visiting his brother and mother there when it was discovered. So, yeah, Wednesday, July 2nd was when he flew out. They believe probably like the 3rd or the 4th is when he drove to Bakersfield. Sunday the 6th is when he did murder his family. He drove back on the 7th, and then the 8th is when it was all discovered. They actually prove this because the drive from Ohio area to Bakersfield is roughly around 2,000 to 2,500 miles. So they actually checked the odometer on the car. They figured out that he had put about 5,400 miles on this car.
That's what I was going to ask, if like it was a theory or if like they found evidence. So they found evidence.
They did. It was circumstantial evidence. There was nothing like actually physical, evidential about it. 5,400 miles was roughly enough to account for a round trip to and from Bakersfield, as well as another little bit of stopping and.
But it definitely gave them more suspicion.
It definitely gave them more suspicion. Yeah. So. That was one of the biggest things, but once again, it was all circumstantial evidence. And the thing that's going to like become pretty apparent with this case, it's not a long case, by the way, but the thing that's pretty apparent about it is that there really is no actual physical evidence that was found for it. So they needed more, right? The detectives couldn't just go off of the odometer reading and see how many miles. So what they actually did, the Bakersfield detectives, they took the radiator and the air filter off of the car, the rental car, and they sent it to experts and doctors at the University of California, Davis entomology department, so the study of insects and bugs. And the lead entomologist, they actually had her pretty much pick apart all of the bugs found on the radiator, the air filter, and the museum director stated, quote, "The insects we found were consistent with 2 major routes to get to California from the east." So it was determined that the insects found in this car only lived west of the Rocky Mountains. And a lot of them really were only found in sort of the Southern California region. So there was no possible way that these bugs could have gotten into the car staying over in the Ohio, North Carolina area. So that just added on to more of this evidence. Now, there is, I guess, some evidence that was found, but really wasn't used actually in the trials or for the cases. Like I said earlier, the house was really trashed. It was ransacked. There was, laundry dumped everywhere and stuff like that. Part of the laundry that was dumped, there was actually a piece of a latex glove that was found, and it did, have DNA matches for Vincent's DNA. But of course, it was his house in a way, so it wasn't all too uncommon for his DNA to actually be there. There were witnesses, particularly there was a former student who said that they actually saw Vincent near the family's home during the time that he supposedly wasn't there. It was over visiting his mother and his brother on the trip. But the defense actually said that witness was unreliable because in years prior he had an injury that caused short-term memory loss.
Okay.
So it was unreliable. So all in all, actually, the jury saw over like 1,000 different exhibits, pieces of evidence, quotes, and circumstantial things to sort of help make up their decision. Yeah. On when was it? So that was 2003 when this all happened. And so for a while, at the start he wasn't considered a suspect, then he was, then for all of 2003 they were investigating it. But it wasn't until April of 2004, the next year, when Vincent was actually arrested and then charged for the murders, the 5 murders of his family, as well as like a special charge because of the mass murder, like a circumstantial charge for the multiple murders.
Oh yeah.
So it's believed that he used a 22 caliber gun and a quote a stabbing weapon.
Did they ever find the weapons?
But, I don't believe they did. No. There's really not too much, but no, yeah, there's nothing that I read that they found any of the weapons, but it was, obvious, I guess, what he had used. So
a spoon.
Yes, but like just a spoon.
That's a lot of rage to use a spoon.
I was like, nah, I'm just gonna stick with that. Yeah. Rage room.
Rage room? No, hell no.
You know what? Remind me to not give Alexis a spoon.
Never. No, never. So he was arrested in 2004 for those charges, but it was pretty slow. The legal proceedings in the court and everything took a really long time. Kern County really fucking sucks at that. I'm dealing with legal stuff right now for Kern County, so it takes a really fucking long time.
Literally.
So it wasn't until May of 2007, 3 years later, when his trial actually happened.
Yo.
So
damn.
Yeah. So they actually brought in a jury. The jury heard testimonies of 137 different witnesses, detailing, seeing him in the area or his past behavior, other things like that. And it was May 15th of 2007 when the jury did convict him of his 5 first-degree murders of his family members.
Wow.
May 29th is when May 15th is when he was fully convicted of that. May 29th is when the jury actually came back with
the verdict.
Wanting to punish him to a sentence of
death.
So he was given a death sentence. Yeah. On May 29th, September 27th, a few months later, the Superior Court judge did agree, with that jury's verdict. They did sentence him to death. He was also ordered to pay restitution for all the damages and everything that happened. And he was taken to the San Quentin State Prison, where he is still serving out his sentence on death row.
San Quentin?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Now, I can't say I disagree with the verdict, because I don't. I think he's guilty.
No, I mean,
as fuck. But
yeah, he does sound like does sound like he's guilty.
But all of this evidence is circumstantial. Like, there is literally no hard evidence of him actually committing these murders, which I think is the craziest
I know, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
All of it is tenuous evidence. There's the actual, methodology of him having to drive so far to make this murder work, having to plan that out.
Yeah.
And then there's the things that
there's so
kind
much.
of contribute to the theory of the bugs, the odometer, all those things. But once again, it's not hard evidence.
Exactly. And like there are people who not necessarily believe he is innocent, but are like, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to have given him a death sentence without any real evidence type of thing. And so I did a little more looking into it, and I found some like Reddit posts of people sort of getting into it a bit more. And a really great question somebody asked was there any CCTV footage of him getting gas or being in any gas stations? He had to drive so fucking far. There was none.
Yeah, that's a big trip.
There was none. There's no actual evidence of him
because I also feel like that's a huge undertaking, just trying to get CCTV from like multiple gas stations through multiple states. And then I think it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, it really is. And like one of the things that I was reading up about is just the actually like insane amount of, I guess, stamina it would take to drive that distance as well. Like, sure, he could have carried gas with him. He wouldn't have needed to stop, whatever. However,
nah, bro didn't sleep.
However, it was about so the timeline is he left either on like maybe like the night of July 3rd or July 4th during the day. July 6th is probably when he got there, or that's when the murders happened at least. So that is like barely 2 days. The drive from Ohio to Bakersfield nonstop is roughly 32 hours. So he would have had to drive nonstop, no sleep,
which means at some point, I assume at some point he would have
an average speed of
like swerving or something
in order to comfortably make this work.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Like, like sure he could have had a decent amount of time, but that's still like a huge undertaking to actually go. And people are saying, well, he could have been on drugs or something. Cocaine,
that's what
Adderall,
I thought. I was like, he might have struggled getting there, but maybe on the drive back, he was just full of that adrenaline because he just killed his entire family.
It could also keep you very much awake and alert.
But so there was like no other suspects. It was just like they focused on him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Damn.
No. They focus on him. He was pretty much the only suspect in this entire investigation.
Damn, dude, that's crazy.
Some people even say that there's like no motive, but I 1000% disagree, and I think all of the investigators disagree as well.
Okay.
It seems, Vincent was pretty much just ready for a new life. And that's how it is with most family annihilators. They're ready to start over. They hate their wife or they hate their spouse.
Yeah.
And they want to start over new. But also if there's children involved, that means that there's, they'd have to pay child support, alimony, whatever.
Especially if they want like a full fresh start with like nothing holding them back.
Killing the children is not necessarily something they want to do, but something they have to do in a way. And, exactly. And not denying that. But also, I think what helps to prove that is that everyone was killed, was shot to death, except for
was there
wife.
Like any records of like that they had like a big fight before he went to see his brother or anything like that?
Lots of targeted anger. That is so much hatred. I'm not too sure. I know that they were
so I think that would maybe contribute to it. Just
actually,
like not wanting to pay child support for 3 kids.
Preparing to divorce once again is what I believe I've read.
Once again, it's not like hard evidence, but like
100%. Like he was done with it all and he wanted to move on. Exactly. But yeah, there was so Joni, his wife, was stabbed a lot. But actually his children were covered up with pillowcases when they were found inside of the home. And typically that suggests, remorse or guilt.
Yeah.
And they actually when the investigators were going through the crime scene, it actually took them hours to find the youngest son because of just how hidden he was under one of those pillowcases. Like they didn't find his body until they finally were able to remove that. So the guilt for the children mixed with the rage for the wife. Once again, it's all circumstantial evidence, but it all just contributed to Vincent being arrested and charged, and now currently in prison. And so this case is pretty much, received as the worst case of crime, the worst murder, the most infamous case in Bakersfield history.
There
in a way, and it still is with investigators. So
everything of value left in the house, which kind of like just rules out that it could just be like a break-in. So, yeah. I don't know. I find family annihilators fascinating. So, thank you for covering this one, though.
Yeah, of course. I was looking for cases and like I stumbled upon this one and I was like, oh my God, like how have I not covered, like I haven't heard about this in so long. And I was doing research into it and I remembered when I was reading about like how they did the testing of the bugs in the car and
like on the news, like the radio.
It like unlocked a memory as a kid for me and I was like, holy shit, like I remember like hearing about this as a kid. Like this is something that I was that I was like fascinated.
No, like I am still amazed by like technology and like all the different like fields of research that in this case like came together of like, let's study the bugs.
No, seriously, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
like it's
got an entomologist.
So cool. Yeah, they actually sent that in, and I don't know, pretty cool. I mean, I wish you didn't, have the reason to do so. But,
and that's like the name that people know the case by.
That is the story of Vincent Brothers and the Harper Family Murders.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the Harper Family Murders. I mean,
fair. Yeah.
Typically, most people recognize like Vincent first, the murderer. However, I never tend to like doing that. Like,
I'm gonna take some water.
Yeah, Harper Family Murders.
For sure.
And we will move on to my case, which I would say that I hope it's like refreshing, but I don't know how refreshing it's going to be.
Thank you very much.
And I'll let you decide.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. Now, for my case, my paranormal case, we're going to stay in California.
What I'm here for.
Cool. Sounds good.
But we're actually going to go up north. And I know that like the three of us are quite familiar with California's historical landmark 868, which is the Winchester.
Okay.
But what do y'all know about California historical landmark number 867?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about. California's historical landmark number 867
Nothing.
is Preston Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that I've like casually brought like Preston Castle up in the past when like we've hung out, but now I get to cover it.
Oh,
Okay.
really? Oh, wow.
So Preston Castle was officially known as the Preston School of
Yay.
Industry, and it's located in Ione, California, in Amador County. And originally, the school was proposed and ultimately named after the state senator at the time, which was Edward Myers Preston. So that's where the name comes from. And it was just a cornerstone laid in December 1890, and it officially opened in June 1894. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson of what this building was, is, and the hauntings in it. And when it was opened in June of 1894, there was 7 wards that were
Yes,
transferred
class is in session.
from, funnily enough, San Quentin State Prison. Yeah. Now, when I say that there were the
San
wards,
Quentin's
like I don't
talk
mean
of
that
the
they were just
town
like
today.
juvenile offenders. There were minors.
Nice.
During this time. The state would take guardianship for a variety of reasons. They could have been troublemakers. They were like perhaps in a bad household, homeless. There's a variety of reasons why the state would take guardianship of the kids. So let's just keep that in mind. Like 1890s, different reason for people to be in here. Now the construction started in 1890. It was designed to be a Romanesque revival architecture style. And now it's known as Preston Castle. It's one of the most significant examples of this style in the Motherlode region, which is what makes the place so iconic. Because technically, Ione, California, it's just a small little town. And we'll get more into the town later, but the main source of like business is tourism because of the castle. Now, when it opened up, it just aimed to reform young male offenders by teaching them trades and giving them a chance to like rehabilitate themselves. And it's to be considered one of the oldest and best known reform schools in the United States. Now, it did open up on July 1st of 1894. The school officially opened the doors, but history isn't always about the reform and rehabilitation, because right from the start, whispers and rumors of like mistreatment and tragic deaths started to surface. So there is a little bit of true crime. I'm going to try to do as minimum of that because Kai already covered that. But it's related to the hauntings. That's why I'm like, let me tell you why this is. Yeah. So the first record of someone dying in Preston School was in 1894, just 1 year after the opening. And the name of the kid was Adolf Andron. He was just a young kid, and he died of pulmonary edema, which for his age was suspicious. It was rare for someone at his age to have this condition. But that was the first death. And there was a dual, what do you call it? Like narrative, like a dual personality of like the castle, the location, the school. Because while it did aim to rehabilitate these boys with vocational training, like they taught them to farm, shoemake, tailoring, carpentry. There was, of course, dark stories of abuse and neglect. Especially in the early 1920s and 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was lots of reports of beatings and like harsh punishments at the hands of the staff.
Like lots of reformatory.
And in 1907, there would be a shift. because that's when California officially decided that the juvenile offenders should be sent to reform to schools like Preston rather than other prisons like St. Quentin. So this is when they were starting to have like a larger intake of kids come into the school. Now, they did struggle with its dual legacy of like the reform and the abuse. So, of course, they're like, there's more kids coming. Is that good or bad? Yeah. And then during this period in the 1900s, the director that was in charge was
I don't
C.B.
know.
Riddick.
Find out.
The school became known as a pioneer in reform efforts because, like I said, people had like mixed feelings about it. There was like both sides.
Okay.
And it's a huge building. This might sound familiar, just different numbers, but it has more than 46,000 square feet. That includes 200 windows, 77 rooms, over 40 fireplaces, 17 bathrooms, 10 chimneys, and 5 floors. It's a huge building. And they have expansive grounds as well.
Oh my god, that's so
now during the
close.
1918s,
Sick, yeah.
something would hit
We're still better though.
Preston Castle. Very similar to, I mean, they got hit by the Spanish flu. In the 1918, the global Spanish flu became a pandemic. It struck Preston Castle, and nearly half of the staff and a third of the boys became ill. Yeah. But officially, there was no deaths that were recorded from the Spanish flu. Even though it's still kind of hard to believe considering like the unsanitary conditions that the boys were living in. But there was no records of any of the kids dying from the Spanish flu. Now, there was a few infamous inmates that stayed in Preston Castle. And I'll just give you a little rundown of who they were and why they were put there. One of them was Carol Chessman, who was later known as the Red Lightning Bandit. The Red Light Bandit. And he was sent there in 1937. And he made multiple escape attempts during his time there, which would just foreshadow his infamous criminal career. That's all I'll say. We can cover him later. Someone else that stayed there would be in 1954, country music legend Merle Haggard also found himself at Preston after stealing a car.
You were going to say Blank Shelton.
No.
What?
Kidding.
But just like Chessman, Haggard tried to escape twice. While he later turned his life around, this time at Preston left a lasting impression in him. So those are some of the infamous figures that stayed in the castle.
Okay.
But unfortunately, this castle was shut down. This institute to reform kids. By the 1960s, the Preston School of Industry closed its doors, leaving the original castle structure abandoned, and the state planned to demolish it. But it would be from 1960 to 1968 that a group of local women fought to keep it standing.
Oh, okay.
So they were able to succeed.
Yeah.
But the state only agreed to not tear it down. They left it to decay.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a bittersweet victory.
Yeah.
Now it would be.
That should be the name of a song.
In 1999, the name of the newer facility was changed from to Preston Youth Correctional Facility. However, the original castle remained vacant and it continued to fall into disrepair until the Preston Castle Foundation leased it from the state in 2001. From 1960 to 2001, it just remained vacant. 40 years of the castle just being empty and just fallen into disrepair. Yeah.
That is crazy. I know that like there was the women that fought for it, but it's like after like that long, why are you just letting it sit? Like just
Yeah.
tear it down.
I think it
don't
was
know.
just them having trouble getting the lease from the state.
I see.
Yeah.
But like, why didn't the state like? Why'd the state just let it sit?
I don't know.
I don't
The
know.
US, it's strange when it comes to historical
Yeah.
landmarks and buildings. But in 2011, just 10 years after they got that lease, the Preston Castle Foundation was able to secure a 50-year lease from
Wow.
so that's when they began restoration efforts. And people were finally able to visit the castle. Today, the foundation's mission is to preserve, rehabilitate, and utilize the castle as a historical site. The foundation was granted ownership of the castle in 2014, and also 12.91 acres of land as well. So that just ensured that the history of the school, its staff, and the boys who live there would not be forgotten. Now, just like all of us, in 2020, the pandemic also affected Preston Castle.
Of course.
Because the entire town of Ione suffered, because the only reason Ione existed was because the castle and the community that was there to save it from the demolition in the 1960s. During the pandemic, they lost 90% of their income. Like, not the the castle, the town, it was just horrible. The pizza parlor, coffee shop, hotel, other business remained open during the pandemic, but the state guidelines during this time just required that museums like Preston Castle to remain closed. So even though it was there, no one was going to Ione. The fundraiser stops, renovation stopped, and there was quite a few break-ins that started to happen as well.
Okay, so people were breaking into the Preston Castle.
What
That's
Yeah.
kinda crazy.
Pandemic is happening. You have nothing better to do. Let's go break into a castle.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Literally. That kind of sense.
Now Preston Castle made its way, of course, into the pop culture and like popular culture throughout the years. It was used for a couple things. It was used for the Bleeding Heart Orphanage in the 1984 comedy film Bad Manners. Have I watched it? No. And the 2014 movie film A Haunting in Preston Castle was set there as well. Have I seen it? No. But even more recently, in 2019, the movie Apparition was also filmed at the castle. Have I seen it? No. But there's also TV shows like Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters who've also conducted their investigations in the castle. And of course, the building is like known for its paranormal reports. And it's featured in several episodes across different like paranormal investigation shows, including the Low Files. Have I seen it? No. Now, this is where we get more into the paranormal aspect, the haunted reputation and the paranormal activity. Now, it is notorious for being one of the most haunted locations in California. So the paranormal investigators flock to the castle all the time. They're drawn by reports of ghost encounters, strange noises, eerie apparitions. So let's take you through some of those common claims. Now, the first one is named Anna Corbin. Because Anna Corbin was a housekeeper in the school in the 1950s, but she was found murdered. She was bludgeoned.
At the castle?
Yes. She was a housekeeper, and there she was bludgeoned to death inside of the castle. Her killer was never officially caught. Although one boy at the school was charged and later acquitted. So many people still believe that her spirit lingers in the castle. Visitors often report hearing footsteps, disembodied voices, and even seeing the apparition of a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothing. and they believe it to be Anna.
Okay. That's
Now,
kinda cool.
there's also infirmary ghosts. That's just another hot spot for paranormal activity, the infirmary. So that's just where numerous boys were treated for illnesses. And of course, in many cases, they died. So people report hearing the sound of coughing, whispers, and even seeing ghostly forms
my
of young boys walking the halls.
Sick.
Yeah. So some investigators here in the infirmary have captured what they believe to be EVPs, which is electronic voice phenomena, of children speaking or asking for help.
Oh,
I
that's
would love to
spooky.
hear that.
Yeah.
Like, that would be so cool.
That would be.
And of course, it's a big castle. There's 5 floors. There's also a basement. And the basement is just a place of shadows. It's, of course, notorious for its, like many basements, oppressive dark energy. Don't know if that's how I would describe most basements or not. But visitors often describe a feeling of dread, as if someone's watching them. Shadow figures have been reported lurking in the corners down there. And several investigators have claimed to be touched or pushed by unseen forces while they're down there.
Pushed?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Full on pushed. Not like a tap on your shoulder, just like pushed.
Like an actual push. I've never heard that before, but that's cool.
Actually, yeah, kind
There's
of cool.
also poltergeist activity. Some paranormal investigators have documented poltergeist activity at the castle, with like objects moving on their own, doors slamming shut, chairs being dragged, and of course, items flying across the room. Now, these reports are more frequent than we might think, especially like in the old dormitories where like the boys once lived. And investigators have even claimed that the objects will move in response to questions, almost as if the spirits are trying to communicate. So rather than like the flashlight method, like they might move something in the room.
Like, that's cool. I want to see that. Like,
that'd be cool to witness.
See stuff like that.
Let me get more into it.
It's like hard concrete.
All right.
There's also records of full body apparitions. So
like
full body apparitions. Like one of the most chilling accounts involves full body apparitions. Several people have reported seeing figures that appear to be completely solid, only to vanish moments later. Now, these ghosts are often described to be wearing old-fashioned clothing, matching the time period when the castle was still operational. And one of the most famous sightings, it's of a boy who's often seen near the 3rd floor dormitory.
Ooh, that's cool.
And his presence, it's often linked to one of the many escape attempts that ended in tragedy.
So
yeah,
he probably tried to like escape from the 3rd floor,
and it probably didn't go well. Yeah. Now, Preston Castle today, it's just a hub for paranormal investigators. It's a prime destination for many people and many like paranormal enthusiasts. The Preston Castle Foundation even offers overnight investigations.
We gotta go.
The groups can spend the night exploring the dark, haunted corners of the castle. Visitors are allowed to bring all sorts of equipment, EMF meters, thermal cameras, EVP recorders, just anything in hopes of capturing like paranormal evidence. Of course, they do tell them that they do not allow Ouija boards and they do not allow fires as well. So bring everything, but leave those 2 at home or leave them in your car.
Got it.
Yeah, so
I think we should bring them in.
Bring what in?
Yeah.
The Ouija board and the fire, or just everything else?
No, the Ouija
the Ouija board.
Yeah. I would never use a
y'all
Ouija
can do
board,
that.
but yeah, we can bring that in. We can bring a bunch of stuff in. You got to bring in Boo Buddy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely. Ovulus, all those things. Now I'm just gonna go over over a couple of the people that died in the castle because I already mentioned Adolf and Anna. But there's also Grant Walker. Grant Walker was another early death. He died of typhoid fever. Like many boys who lived at the Preston, he was just subjected to poor living conditions. So it most likely could have been prevented, but of course it wasn't. Another person that passed away was Frank Ward in the 1900s. Frank was just 14 years old when he died at the Preston Castle. And his cause of the death was listed as paralytic dementia, also known as general paralysis of the insane. So this is technically an extreme and unusual condition for someone so young. Yeah. So, of course, it leads to speculation of what might have caused it. Perhaps untreated syphilis or severe trauma. The details just remain unclear, but he is another recorded death in the castle.
Okay.
Now, there's, of course, claims of death and abuse from violence, but there's no records of that. There's just like the medical deaths that were like reported. Eugene Monroe, he was a ward at Preston Castle who was suspected for murder, but he's the one that got acquitted from the crime of Anna Corbin.
Okay.
And of course, people say that there's like undocumented deaths.
Of course, yeah.
But the grounds, like I said, there's a lot of acres there. There is a cemetery on the grounds.
Okay.
Yeah, and the cemetery has 18 documented graves.
Oh.
Okay. So of course that's going to contribute to like, more of the spirits and things that are supposedly seen.
Of course.
Seen.
Yeah.
Last I've heard, people are not allowed to visit them. Like they're on the grounds, but like they're just not accessible to visitors. Okay. Don't know if that's still the case or not. But of course, there's also rumors that more boys died in the school. So like there's not a grave for all of the boys. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're just rumors. Now, if you want to visit Preston Castle,
yes,
we are able to. They do historical tours. They do daytime historical tours where visitors explore the architecture, learn about the history of the school, and they get to hear about the lives of the boys that were wards of the state. So you can expect that these tours are primarily going to focus on the Preston School of Industry, the founding from 1894 to its closure in the 1960s. The tour guides will take you through the castle. They'll explain the use of different rooms, the significance as a reform school, and the architectural details of the building.
Okay.
Now, visitors will get to see the dormitories and the administration rooms, as well as the kitchen and the infirmary, as well as a couple more. Not many areas are open because, like I said, the castle was closed for 60 years. It was deteriorating. Yeah. It also, during the pandemic, it was deteriorating even more.
Yeah.
Of course, if you want paranormal things, don't go for the day tours because they focus more on history than the paranormal aspect. But they do offer paranormal tours. And also they offer paranormal investigations. So they have public paranormal tours, and they take place at night, obviously. They combine a little brief history of the castle, but they mostly focus on the reported paranormal activity.
That's cool.
Visitors are guided through the most haunted areas, which include the infirmary, the basement, and the location where Anna Corbin was murdered. So this is when visitors, like I said, are encouraged to bring their own equipment. Mm-hmm. But they also offer private paranormal investigations. And it's just private booking on their website. You just have to reach out to them. And they give access to exclusive areas of the building. What they are, the third floor dormitories, basement infirmary, as well as a couple more that are not the usual ones that people are given access to. Once again, no Ouija board or fire. But even though there's 5 floors, like the top ones are not like restored and they're not safe. So even though they're there, they're not open for investigations or to the public.
That makes sense.
Give it a couple more years, 10, 20, they might open them up again. But Preston Castle also hosts seasonal events, especially around, that's just around the corner, Halloween. Yeah, they offer a full haunted house experience. And it's themed for paranormal nights. Yeah. So these events are designed to raise funds as donations for the ongoing preservation of the castle. Now, would you all like to know a little bit about this year's haunt?
Well,
Yes.
So if I'm correct, this will be their 13th year hosting a haunt.
Nice.
Ooh, coincidence?
Coincidence? And it's themed 1920s traveling circus.
Oh my god! Coincidence?
So they turned the whole thing into like an immersive experience for thrill seekers.
That's really cool.
It's really just the biggest fundraiser that they have each year. So yeah, so from their website it says, step into the sinister world of the 1920s haunting traveler in circus, where a malevolent ringmaster recruits from the haunted halls of Preston School of Industry. As shadows deepen, whispers of residents among the boys echo against the ringmaster's dark ambitions. Will they define his sinister allure or become haunted specters in his macabre parade? The dates are from October 11th, 12th, 18th, 19th, 25th, and 26th. So that's their biggest fundraiser.
Okay.
It's just a few hours
We
up.
gotta
Cool.
go.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
have to. be
Something
fun.
that I really like from their website is that they actually post recent success with like restorations and things like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Aw.
So they started with like that they acquired the deed of ownership from the state. They also mentioned that they installed electrical service independent from the surrounding state property. They installed water and sewer services separate from the surrounding state property. They rebuilt the center section of the castle's 4th floor, and it also helped stabilize the walls. They got a new roof on the castle, colonial, and the visitor center as well. They landscaped the grounds. They installed new fire hydrants with water systems in the front of the castle. They greatly expanded castle tours. They passed a brick shear test that proved that the castle's outside brick walls were structurally sound.
That's cool.
I know. As I was reading through this, I'm like, this is a lot of I'm into this. Yes. Completed strategic plan. They began working with outside expertise, including Mike Garavilla, who's a historian, preservational architect, and structural engineer to guide restoration activities. They installed improved gutters and downspouts.
Nice.
And they also completed core historic structures report, created vintage farm museum. They retrieved original Pelton wheel electrical generator. They showcased vintage printing equipment, hosted successful, well-attended events, redesigned the website to include online donations and ticket purchases, and they installed outdoor lighting and replica street lights.
That's really cool.
So
That's cute. Yeah.
I love how they're just here for like the restoration, the history. Let's share that with everyone. And that is Preston Castle in
That's awesome.
Ione, California.
Wow, thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
So I'm just saying, we need to
You should
go up there soon.
Yeah, you should have like told that, but in a southern accent.
Are you going to tell your story with a southern accent?
Preston Castle.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Okay.
I can't do that.
Not with that attitude.
But I do have a question for you guys.
Do I like bacon?
Okay. No. Okay.
Okay.
Here's my question. So, have you guys ever witnessed a world record attempt or wanted to do one yourself? Like a Guinness World Record?
Not really.
I don't
No.
think I've ever seen someone attempt one or wanted to do one.
I mean, I've seen YouTube
You've-
videos of people attempting.
Yeah, I've seen
but-
YouTube videos, but not like in person.
You guys have never wanted to attempt one yourself?
No,
What
I'm
would I
not that
attempt?
talented. Yeah, what?
I'm like, yeah, like what would I attempt?
I used to watch this show. It's a Disney show called Kicking It. And they have an episode where the main character breaks a world Guinness record for breaking a certain amount of cylinder blocks or cement blocks. And I don't know why, but like I thought maybe I could do that one day. When I originally watched that episode, I was probably like
Okay.
9.
Oh, good
But
luck with that.
Yeah, still going at it, you know. But anyways, so in Cleveland, Ohio, 1986, there was an organization by the name of United Way,
Okay.
and
Like the airline?
no, but they had prepared a charity event, and they had a goal, a really brave goal. It was to set a Guinness World Record for releasing the most balloons simultaneously.
Oh my
They
God.
had planned to do it
Oh.
with 1.5 million balloons. Now, as cool as that sounds,
Rest in peace, our environment, bro.
I've heard of this.
it did not end up being that cool. So,
Tell us what happened, Alexis.
yes, I shall. That's what I'm here for. Okay. So, the idea was really cool at first. You know, a lot of people thought it would be really cool to witness, really simple too. They originally planned to fill up and release 2 million balloons, but instead they were like, nah, let's stick with the 1.5. And they envisioned, you know, like a sea of colorful balloons coming down, like a cute little moment that would make headlines on famous newspapers, and it would draw attention towards the community and
I
to the
mean,
charity and their cause, you know.
not gonna lie, it did end up in
It,
newspapers.
yeah, it did, just not in the way that they envisioned. So the entire Balloon Fest is what it was known as. Balloon Fest 86 was coordinated by a Los Angeles-based company, and the head of the company was Treb Haining. They spent a total of 6 months for preparation of the event. And they plan to release them from the terminal tower onto the southwest quadrant of Cleveland's public square. The day had finally come where all their hard work, all that preparation that they put, it was finally going to pay off. It was Saturday, September 27th, 1986. And it was about 1:50 p.m. when a crowd of over 10,000 people gathered in downtown Cleveland just so they could witness this event.
Okay. That's a lot of
There
people.
were, yeah, there were about like 2,500 volunteers, mainly consisting of high school students inside the building, and they were filling up the balloons with helium, which I feel like is important because goddamn, they would be out of breath if they had to do that with just their
Yes.
mouths.
Yeah.
And another important thing, but the volunteers, they had worked very long. They were extremely tired, of course, but still, excitement was in the air. They had begun their countdown, building up the anticipation, and then they finally released them. 1.5 million balloons had been launched into the sky, and that sea of colorful balloons came floating. Now, the United Way, and as well as that Los Angeles-based company, they had prepared and planned for those 6 months for pretty much everything that they had thought of, except for the weather. There was a cold front that
Bruh.
day. There was a rainstorm coming. So when all those balloons were released and the temperature dropped, it caused the balloons to start floating down, descending, instead
Which
of
is
floating
scary.
away. Yeah. So what started as beautiful balloons going up into the sky ended up creating a really big disaster once they met the ground. Yeah. Suddenly, thousands of balloons were coming down, clogging up the traffic, causing all kinds of accidents, and even getting tangled in power lines. Now, then the balloons eventually ended up in the local airport. This, of course, caused a lot of delays, disruptions, and it distracted those who were also already in the air. The balloons even made their way to Lake Erie, causing water pollution, and as a result, there were many volunteers, locals, residents, and city workers helping clean up the mess within the city of Cleveland, as well as Lake Erie. So, again, what was meant to be a celebratory kind of like charity event just turned into a literal nightmare.
Yeah.
For
No,
everyone.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
But
Could you imagine being like in
Raymond,
a building at that time and you just like get swallowed up by
same.
balloons?
Just literally what I'm saying. Like, what would you do? Genuinely, what would you guys do if you were in that situation?
Move away from the windows.
Cry.
Like, you just see him crying in the corner.
I was gonna be like,
Wait,
God,
no,
get
I
away
don't
from
even
the
know.
window.
I can't.
I'd get my sword,
There's
pop
too
those
many.
balloons.
There's too many of them. Too many of what? Balloons. They're everywhere. Anyway, go on.
Yeah,
That's
keep
literally
going.
what I'm saying, guys. This was scary. But anyways, there was okay, all jokes aside. Raymond Broderick and Bernard Sulzer, they were two fishermen. And on September 26th, they decided to go out, out in the sea.
Yeah.
But on the day of the event, their families had reported them both missing.
Oh, hell no.
There was a Coast Guard search and rescue and even a helicopter rescue crew that was ordered after rescuers discovered the fisherman's boat anchored west of the Edgewater Park breakwall. But there were a lot of search and rescue boats in the lake. Yet due to the amount of balloons that there were, it was difficult to see if anybody was in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So the Coast Guard, they decided to suspend the search on September 29th. And then the fishermen's bodies washed up on the shore.
Oof.
The wife of one of the fishermen decided to sue United Way of Cleveland, as well as the company that coordinated the event, for $3.2 million. The lawsuit was settled on undisclosed terms, so don't know who won.
Okay.
Whatever. And how much.
It was settled.
Well, yeah, it settled.
Yeah,
It was
so
settled.
they got something
Yes, it was
out of
settled.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got something, but I just don't know how much.
Yeah.
However, the search and rescue program manager for Coast Guard District 9, Roger Rice, I think that's a sick name. Anyways, had stated in an interview he did this year, 2024, that Balloon Fest did not have anything to do with the unfortunate deaths of both these men.
Oh. Is there an explanation?
No, that is literally all that he states.
Sir.
Okay.
Sir.
What?
Yup.
Dude, what?
I could say the same thing about everything.
Yeah, where do we? I think they were also just trying to cover up everything, like,
Oh, they
push
covered it
under the
up
rug.
with balloons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this was kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity for the media too,
Oh, for
This is a
sure.
pretty crazy event. So they made headlines like, quote, "The Great Balloon Disaster" and "Cleveland's Colorful Calamity," which I think are great. The event was known as world record, quote, "largest ever mass balloon release," end quote, in the 1988 edition of the Guinness Book of World Records, with a count of 1,429,643 balloons released.
And
There was
I
also
assume that they no longer try to break this record.
I hope to God not.
I think
So
so.
they did end up getting the record, though. Okay.
Yeah. There was also a short documentary film made called Balloon Fest in 2017. But this was a really short case. But I really wanted to share it with you guys because balloons. Duh.
You're good.
But yeah, that was
I
the
think
Balloon
there's
Fest of
videos out there
86.
as well, right?
Oh,
I
no,
think I've
there
seen
is.
some. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There is. It's actually, hold on, I'm going to send a few pictures for you guys too, actually.
Okay.
Because it's actually insane. It looks really scary. I don't know.
It looks fine until you see them come down or like wrap around a building. And then it's like, oh, this was not a good
idea. It's like a cute little fun thing. And then it's like, oh, no, it's not. Yeah. So.
The weather was not going to cooperate that day.
No, but I mean, even if the weather was fine, who thought it would be a good idea to release 1.5 million balloons?
The Guinness World Record book?
No, United Airways. United Airways.
Like, do you know how bad
United
it's
Way
gonna fuck up our atmosphere?
Wait.
Dude. It did.
Crazy.
Water pollution, everything, brother. Oh my god.
I love how we've just kind of moved on from like the two guys like dying, and we're more so like, haha,
that's what I'm saying.
Dumb.
Two people died because I don't know if I didn't even know if the balloons was necessarily the cause of their death, but it was.
But still, yeah.
It was
like correlation and all that stuff.
Causation. It was the reason why it was so hard to find their bodies.
Yeah. It contributed to it. Was it the main reason?
No, I don't think so. Or I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I guess we'll never know.
Not in this reality.
I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, dude, that's a lot of balloons.
Yeah, no, that is.
I don't know.
I will never release a balloon into the air ever again. I never purposely have, but yes.
Yeah.
When was this again?
1986, September 27th.
So like they didn't care about like the environment back then. So.
Not really. There was a few people that probably like said something, and they're like, you're crazy.
No, please. Don't do that.
Think of the birds.
God. How do they even make that many balloons? You know what I mean? Like
they called every party city in town.
Yeah, they were like, "Hey, I'd like to order I'd like to get some balloons, please."
All your balloons.
Yeah, how many do you need? All of them.
And then can you also order more?
Yeah, and also order more. We're gonna need about 1.5 million.
The fact that they originally wanted to do 2 million is crazy.
It's insane. Like, where do you think all that plastic and shit is gonna go after those balloons pop? Like, there's like hundreds of pounds of balloon waste.
I generally don't think that they had a plan for a cleanup. Did they have a plan for a cleanup?
No, I doubt
They did have a cleanup.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But still, I'm just like, can you at least tie them all to like string so you can like pull them back down?
Oh yeah.
We're gonna release the balloons and then bring them back down. Anyway,
but they decided not to do that. It was like up, but without the house. Anyways, thank you for listening.
Yeah, so we'll wrap it up with that.
Yeah, we will.
No balloons at my party.
No balloons, no
balloons, fun. Make sure they don't go bye-bye.
Fair.
Yeah.
And that's
put a leash on them.
Story. I mean, they technically already have a leash on them.
Sometimes they don't.
Bruh. Just straight up balloon.
I'm just being inclusive.
No ribbon. You're being inclusive.
What?
I was gonna say.
I thought that's what she was gonna say as well.
Oh my god.
Anyways,
thank you, everyone.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, a bit of a shorter episode today, but that's okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna spend another half hour just talking, but we're just gonna.
I don't think you guys want to hear that though. So,
we'll sign off.
If you want to hear more of us talking, we've got a bunch of other episodes to listen to. So, like, you can definitely do that too.
Yeah. And if you want a specific episode, a specific story, let us know.
Yeah. We do take to the
and let us know if you tried to attempt any world record.
Oh yeah, or like if you'd want to, what's the talent that you think you could break a world record with?
Yeah, and if we should break a world record.
Most people on a podcast at one time. I don't know.
How would we do that?
Most
I don't know.
Most murders at once.
Most
what?
Ever.
Don't worry about it. Cut that out. Cut that.
Okay. Have a good night, y'all.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Chambers of the Occult. For photos, sources, and anything else mentioned during the episode, check out our website at chambersoftheoccult.com. You'll find everything you need there if you do find yourself wanting more. You can also follow us on all of our socials at Chambers of the Occult and on Twitter at COTO Podcast. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, personal anecdotes, or concerns, let us know. Fill out our contact form on our website, email us at chambersoftheoccult@gmail.com, or leave us a message on our socials. We would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed what you heard, we would greatly appreciate it if you could drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. It is absolutely the best way to show your support, and it would mean the world. Until next time.